this kid's a wizard or shit, so not.
Alright, so if you don't know, this is the symbol that I introduced most of my videos with. It is these Saturn and Jupiter symbols combined and reflected. It represents duality, and it's been found all over the world for a long time on petroglyphs, cave paintings, etc. As you can see here, it is Saturn and Jupiter, the three-pronged crown, and then the two Saturn scythes as legs. It's also a Taurus. It's been found all over the world for a long time, but it represents this perfect end of duality and balance between Saturn and Jupiter, two opposite ends of the spectrum. The symbol has been repeated throughout time. As you can see, two Saturn scythes are the two sides of the heart. The three-pronged fire is the crown of Jupiter. Here on an ancient Norse symbol, the two ravens form the heart at the bottom. This is a symbol I discovered, but it's really ancient. And if you just take Saturn and Jupiter, it's 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. But it repeats itself throughout time. And in pop culture, as you can see here, Saturn and Jupiter turn on its side. It is an obvious symbol that's actually on a basketball. That's why that new song by Katy Perry, Swish, is all about basketball. But you guys can't see it for whatever reason. Staring you right in the face. Saturn, Jupiter, end of duality. Look at the way she's holding it. Like she knows the symbol, but you don't. It's pretty obvious when you take a look at it. It's kind of sad too.
What is what, but they don't know what is what. They just strut.
Don't know what is what.
What the?
Pretty obvious. There's the eye, the giving birth, the upside down triangle, the V, vaginal, the valley, holding the pyramid, eye, like a womb, holds a baby. And this is a symbol of this duality, this red and blue pillar from Masonic tradition, come into an end of duality.
These cycles of time are grafted in Egypt's myth of creation. In the beginning, a mound emerged from an ocean of chaos. On it appeared the creator, the sun god Ra.
The first sunrise takes place on this mound. And the first appearance of life, a magical bird, the firebird, the phoenix, comes and he utters the first cry. And by doing so, he begins time.
The cry of the phoenix set in motion the cycles of the cosmic order, the wheels of time. And when the cycle is completed, the phoenix will rise again to set a new circle in motion.
The next bit has to do with the pillars and their history. I'm going to read you a short little passage. This actually begins with a story from the 1390s, and it was written in manuscript number 1 of the York, about 1600 AD. Before Noah's flood, there was a man called Lamech, oldest man ever. As it is written in the scriptures, in ye chapter of Genesis, and this Lamech had 2 wives, ye one named Ada, by whom he had 2 sons, ye one named Jebel, ye other named Jubal, and another wife called Zillah, by whom he had 1 son named Tubal-Cain, and 1 daughter named Naamah. And these 4 children found ye beginnings of all ye sciences in ye world, viz. Jabal, and ye oldest son found in science of geometry, keeper of flocks, Jubal, science of music, harp, organ, Tubal-Cain, science of smithing, crafting gold, silver, and copper, daughter, weaving, a god with vengeance for sin, either by fire or water, wherefore they writ their several sciences, yet they had found in 2 pillars of stone, yet might be found after Noah's flood, and ye other stone would not burn with fire, and ye other called lanterns, because it would not be drowned with water. So this is basically saying that they preserved the knowledge of the sciences that they obtained, the 4 sciences, on a device that was held suspended in the air by a pillar that wouldn't burn in fire, and information that would not drown in a flood that they could go back and retrieve later. This information was stored on the top of the pillar, the Pyramidion, the Bin stone at the top of the pillar of Heliopolis. This is ancient knowledge preserved atop a high pillar. As you can see here, these are the Pyramidions. These are why they are always removed from the top of the pyramid, because it's secret knowledge that's held by only a few. Bin was the mound that rose from the primordial waters of Nu, upon which the creator god Autumn, where we say Amen, settled in the creation story of the Heliopolis, the Egyptian religion. This has to do with Heliopolis and the founding of the Temple of the Pillars, also ancient Phoenicia and the Temple of the Pillars there, as well as several Greek buildings. But there is a Pyramidion, the Bin stone, carved with images and inscriptions, and they're found in museums around the world. These are typically very important. The Binu bird was the phoenix. According to Barry Kim, the connection between the Bin, the phoenix, and the sun may well be based on alliteration, and it's true. It all goes back all the way to the very beginning. Göbekli Tepe. 2 central pillars, just like the Masonic tradition of the red and blue pillar, in the center of their quote-unquote temple. And I really believe it was less a temple like we currently have now, where we worship God, and really Göbekli Tepe was more kind of like this place where we celebrate sports, and it was the first sport, a decathlon of sorts. I'll show you.
That the fables of Genesis are based upon a serpent cult, and that the union of the serpentine energies we know as the Kundalini in Hindu tradition. The dual nature of man must reunite in order to be one again with the deity. Eve, of course, must unite with Adam. In the old Akkad tongue, Ad signifies the father and a mythical person with whom Adam is most allied, such as Seth or Saturn or Thoth, and others were serpent deities. Adam and Eve are therefore both symbolic serpents of energy within man that must unite in order to bring about the true Son of Man, which is the Christ. Christianity, or more to the point, Gnostic Christianity, early on developed this ancient system until the concept of the Holy Trinity was finally written down. This is the Father, which is the male principle, the Mother, the female principle, and the Son of Man, which is the ultimate result of a perfect union. This is why Jesus is God, and also the Son of God, because he is the result of the reuniting of the elements of division of the one God. The Bible is a repeating pattern of initiation into the mysteries of the human mind. It is a tool to teach us about ourselves, and is, according to most scholarly sources, an accumulation of other wisdom and religious literature from Mesopotamia, Egypt, Persia, and elsewhere. It is the sum of these other sources that we must now turn to see if the same repeating pattern of psychological and philosophical teaching is to be found. Similar beliefs are shared with the sacred Jewish Torah, the priestly code to be found in the Pentateuch, and said to have been given to Moses by God. This written Torah is said to have been passed through the oral Torah first, emerging from darkness. Kabbalists of the 13th century wrote down their understandings of this inner divine in a book we now know as the Zohar, the word meaning radiance, and this is due to the divine light, which is the Torah reflected in the mysteries of the Zohar. The literal meaning people see in the Zohar is darkness. Only by seeing the hidden, mystical interpretation will we make a new reading of the Zohar more exciting and revelatory. The tree seen in the Zohar is said to produce fruit through the water that God provides. God's water is called Hokmah and means wisdom. It is Sophia, or wisdom, that will enable the tree to bear fruit, which is the soul of a righteous man. Shekinah will only dwell with the righteous, and only through Hieros Gamos, or holy union of the male and female principles, is this possible. The ancient goddess Sophia, who gave her name to the great mosque of Istanbul, is this aspect of wisdom. The female principle is seen on many levels as that of wisdom, and it is symbolized often with water. This is the reason that Mary is often seen on a boat, or as a boat, she being the mistress of wisdom, and her name meaning water. The boat, as in the symbol of the city of Paris, is also seen with an upright pole balanced upon the crescent moon-shaped boat. This is the moon aspect of the goddess, the negative or feminine principle. The pole is originally the tree of Asherah, or, as we shall see, and who is truly a modern version of our ancient Sophia. It is also the male principle, and reveals the divine union.
And this has to do with pillars. The red and blue, the male phallic obelisk. Obelisks, like the ones found at Göbekli Tepe, representing a human. And which human does that represent? Well, the first two humans were Cain and Abel. A ball, obelisk, Cain, just like a rod, a staff. The two pillars, red and blue, they come together to form a third secret pillar, like the one you see here, wrapping together like two snakes coiled together like the Kundalini, red and blue, one going up, one going down, one higher, one lower, just like vibration. These are the pillars that preserved our ancient knowledge in the Bimbin stones, the yellow pyramidion, the secret 13th pillar they have hidden from us, the yellow capstone, the pyramidion. All the secret knowledge was preserved on these Bimbin stones, just like I've said for a long, long time now. An end of duality, a uniting of the red and blue pillars to form a house to hold information. Just like Masonic tradition is the secret storehouse of hidden information. This can be seen as a reflection of the Orphic egg atop the cane, or the ball atop the rod, the skull atop the spine, the crystal ball atop the magician's staff, the light that shines on the high place. This is the information that they didn't want it destroyed in global cataclysm, the information they wanted preserved. This is the reason why we have cylinder seals, because they were to be made of wood and float up a shaft whenever floodwaters would rise. This is why we have Chinese coins shaped this way, Tibetan prayer wheels. These are all different devices that would float off a shaft, and atop the bin under a golden cone that would be lifted up in a floodwater, you'd have a Orphic egg full of information they wanted preserved and protected against floods and fires. So they kept it up high and made it float on a basket, since basket weaving was one of the 4 sciences, and preserved the knowledge. And then they trained basically all of the most common birds to go out and collect these floating baskets with these secret golden Orphic Easter eggs. These baskets would be shaped like prey for these birds. Often these baskets would be shaped like turtles or snakes or fish that the bird would be trained to go collect. It would be colored black so the bird could easily identify it from a high altitude. The bird would swoop down, collect it, and thus the myth of the phoenix rebuilding society, because the birds would be trained to go out in the high floodwaters from a boat to collect the baskets that look like prey. That's why you have pelican. It's a pal of Cain. It's a very common understanding that we've had a very close connection with birds for a long, long time. One of the oldest animals there is. They would go out and collect these Easter eggs for us, bring them back in a basket. That's why you see the birds in ancient Sumerian reliefs and Assyrian reliefs carrying baskets to the Tree of Life, just like the birds carrying baskets back to the boats. You'd even have different tribes of humans racing each other, so you collect this information the fastest. They made it a game, first, second, and third place. Golden egg, silver egg, and bronze egg. They literally made it a contest so humanity would go out and collect these things. They had pillars built all over the planet. South America, you see these tall pillars as well as in Egypt. And in Antarctica. Göbekli Tepe was a stadium where they brought this information back and restarted civilization again. That's why you have Göbekli Tepe show up so soon after the huge cataclysm at the end of the Younger Dryas period. Right after there was a huge impact from outer space, whether it was an asteroid or a comet, is not known, but it impacted the North American ice sheet, which was 2 miles thick, made a huge global flood, threw a whole bunch of water particulates into the air, created flooding all over the planet through rain as well as just raised sea levels, as you can imagine with that much water trapped within the ice. Humans saw the impacts and they were gradual, and they decided to take precautions. We would do the same thing, and they stored their knowledge on pillars and Orphic eggs.